So I was just having
This,
everybody check.
the balance of that, though, in fairness, you aren't saving that much time because now you have to go to
And so
bowling,
it has all your confirmation
basketball
numbers
games, so
on
you're probably
your
missing some
hotel
school
and
anyway.
And I think the staff said out there that
I think it's
because they don't have to just clear the thing.
so you can.
Yep,
just-
and then you get two more. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's 5:15. We'll call this regular meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody that's in the audience this evening. Would you please stand and recite the pledge with me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving to letter B, school board norms. Diane, would you like to read those?
The board-developed norms are: decisions will be based on the board's strategic plan, its mission, and what's best for students. The board will act as stewards of tax dollars. Board members will complete foundation work to be prepared for meetings. Meetings will be efficient. All perspectives will be voiced and heard. All board members will maintain a professional decorum.
Thanks, Diane. We have no public communications. Any conflicts of interest to declare? None. Moving to consent agenda, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Heidi, seconded by Brenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving into our regular meeting, we have under A, recognition. Brenda, would you like to read those? And then if your name was called, please come forward for your certificate. So,
The Student Attendance Review Board, SARB, committee members are being recognized for their commitment to improving attendance across the district. Attendance is one of the primary drivers for student success and a critical component of the district's mission of all learning for all. The SARB team has worked to coordinate processes and improve practices related to student attendance. With many of the SARB committee members being counselors, they are often the first line of communication with families in need. They strive to develop a strong and positive relationship built upon trust and support. The SARB committee members are Carrie Solis, Tressie Mitchell, Ashley Michael, Lisa Anderson, Shane Ringdahl, Candy Wenenbach, and Mark Stillwell. Thank you.
Want to take a picture?
Heidi?
Before Principal Stilwell leaves, could we have him just go over the three-tier process of this, the tier 1, 2, 3, and 4, I guess 4 tiers?
She wants you to talk, Mark.
I didn't prepare anything.
There's one right on
This group has done a great job the last 3 years. I think it's done more to find the positive aspects of being in class the last 3 years than maybe we've done for decades before. And for the most part, the feedback has been tremendously positive. People are recognizing you can do your work at home, but you can't learn at home. You can't learn on a vacation, or you learn in the classroom. And that's when we constantly go back to our mission of learning for all. That's what this group is formed on. It started quite a few years ago with Mr. Toso and kind of with West Fargo's version, and we've made it our own. We feel really good about it. These ladies and Mr. Ringdahl have done a fantastic job. I don't know who wrote what you read, but it was I like what it said, that they're the first line of defense to build positive relationships with people to understand why we do things and the importance of sitting in a classroom or standing in a classroom or dancing in a classroom or whatever. The tiers are based on number of absences per semester, based somewhat on century code and rules from DPI, and then how it best fits our district. First graders are treated different than sixth graders, different than high school kids when you're working on credit. So there is some gray areas, and it's a work in progress. So, but every group is treated slightly different because of age and example. Elementary kids, parents make most of their decisions. Middle school, it's a little bit of parents and kids. In high school, it's kids making a lot of decisions on attendance. So we do have to treat a little bit different, but the tiers, as you mentioned, are based on number of absences per semester. So, like I said, I thank you for the recognition. I wish more of the team would have been here. They do most of the work. I just facilitate the meetings. They're the ones that bring us all together, so that if your student goes to Washington, it's the same as it is at Roosevelt. At the elementary level, it's very same. Age appropriateness, it's the same as at the middle school, knowing there's a little bit of age appropriateness issues as kids are at different levels. So it has really brought us together as a district, and I thank for that opportunity. Like I said, back when Mr. Toso first started to roll this.
Diane, you have a question?
I have a comment. I just wanted to compliment the team. I know that 4 years ago, Fritz Fremgren came in and spoke to us, and there were some concerns about SARB. Like you said, it hadn't become our own yet, and there was some confusion and even some chaos. And there was some disgruntled counselors, I think, not knowing exactly what it was supposed to do and how it was supposed to be implemented. And our district has just come in and taken this bull by the horns and really, like you said, made it our own. And we're seeing tremendous results, and I just can't compliment the process enough. I feel like there are, like you said, so many compliments now, and everybody seems to be satisfied. I know at one point they were saying when you get to the high school level, it's too late, and that this has to go down into the kindergarten and almost preschool level, working with these families, and that's exactly what we've done, and we're starting to see the difference, and I really appreciate the work that's been put into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't do the work. I facilitate the meetings. Those are elementary counselors and our social studies, middle school people, social worker, that's where I got to go. They do a great job working with these families, and like I said again, it goes back to learning for all. And you learn in a classroom, not at home or wherever. It's the best place to learn is in front of the expert, whether that's a math teacher, a Phi Ed teacher, or whatever the subject may be.
Okay. Any other questions for him? Nope. Okay. Thanks for coming.
Thank
Mark.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Moving on to B, we have nothing under correspondence. Moving to reports, student council report. No one there. So, health committee report. Bob or Jennifer? Is that okay?
We took a vote. Just a couple things quick. Probably the biggest thing the Health Insurance Committee's been working on for, I think, 2 years, probably, is a near-site clinic. And we're to the point now where we're getting ready to sign, I believe, a preliminary agreement, not the final agreement yet, but get a preliminary agreement out there with a company called Medallis, where they would bring in a near-site clinic in the Jamestown area. And our consultant, Hayes, this has been something they've been working on with us. They feel it's a good opportunity for us to provide a couple of things. First, that's the wrong word, possibly quicker coverage. If someone has to get in and wants to get in and see a medical provider, they maybe be more convenient, faster. And secondly, hopefully, again, it would save the health insurance fund some dollars. So those are the two reasons to look at this. like I said, no contract has been signed yet. It's still a work in progress, but it's getting closer. The second thing to report out on is something just that we always have to keep an eye on. So far, the health insurance fund is doing well this year. We have approximately a $2.2 million balance at this time, and the last 4 months' expenditures are $1.2 million. So we have a very healthy balance in the health insurance fund, and we have to commend the members of the Health Insurance Committee that have worked on that for many years, because if you look at most organizations, health insurance is a major problem. And luckily here in Jamestown right now, it's not, because and a lot of that credit has to go to the Health Insurance Committee. So kudos to them. Mrs. Schmidt, do you have anything?
Nothing further.
Heidi?
I just have a question about the near-site clinic. That I remember them talking about that when the consultant was here a couple of years ago. Will that be staffed with like a mid-level, or do you know, or?
Nothing is set in stone to begin with. It will be a MD who will come in and starts up the clinic, and then he will be, if they decide to do this, it's still an if. It'll be an MD that comes in, and then he will try to find someone local, whether it's an MD or a mid-level. It sounded more like it was going to be a mid-level, but it wasn't anything. Nothing was set in stone. Any other questions?
Rob, you have a comment, or?
Just a comment to one of the areas that when we had Hayes speaking here before was partnering. We would take a partnership with potentially with another business or entity that might want to partner in this kind of a venture. And one of the interesting things about Medallis, again, Medallis is the company that's being considered, would be the partner that they feel is the best partner is providing urgent care. So that's not something that exists right now for the community. And so essentially we would be partnering with this company, and they would be providing urgent care to the community, and kind of fills multiple roles, fills that role of meeting the medical needs of our staff, but then also serves that and again, the thing we need to clarify, the school would not be running urgent care. We would be partnering with a company that's providing urgent care. So I think there's an important difference to make there. But essentially that's how we would be able to do this and then provide potential cost savings to the district. The other thing that I thought too, consistency, addressing the bottleneck issue that's taking place in Jamestown now. It's very hard to see your doctor. It's even hard to see a doctor, much less your own personal doctor. And this would allow for that, which of course improves follow-up and consistent care there. So that certainly can be a savings. So it's exciting to consider. It's certainly not something that is, we haven't signed that final agreement, but that agreement to explore. So I think it's pretty exciting. And I have to reiterate what Mr. Toso has said already. And we've talked about this every time it seems like we speak about the Health Insurance Committee. They are just an amazing group of people that have really dug deep into this world and provide great guidance for the plan, as evidenced by how well the plan continues to do. So they do a great job.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? None? Moving on to number 3, superintendent's report. Rob?
Okay, so I apologize if some did not get, before I left for conference, I thought I had that sitting in the Google Drive, and it didn't get in there, so I apologize if that got to you a little bit late. In the legislative update, we're at crossover now, or we've since had crossover. Really, probably the only thing I'm going to point out other than what's in here already is 1324. Again, as we've talked before, that's our housing bill. But one thing to note about this, it's changed some language related to deductions. As the board knows, your state payment is, your foundation aid payment is determined, and then there's some deductions that take place. Deductions on local property tax, and then other revenue. What this would do, what 1324, the amended 1324 would do, is take those that other state revenue. And as we've talked before, some of those are deducted at 75%, some of those are deducted at 100%. For example, in lieu taxes and telecommunications, so mobile home, in lieu taxes, telecommunications, those are all at 100%. So it's essentially a wash. You get it and it's deducted at 100%. What 1324 would do now is take those deductions at 75%. So that means additional revenue that we would see that we haven't seen in the past for deductions. For us, in what I'm calling recovered revenue, that's about $59,000. So if that were to pass, with that language to change, the other state revenue would result in, like I said, in about $59,000 in recovered revenue. So that's certainly a positive thing. Now, the reality check of it is it's still a 0% increase and taxable value still increased. So you're still seeing a net loss there, but it is certainly a positive thing. So other questions on any of the legislation that we've talked? I think I outlined that fairly well in the written report. The facility planning, I gave you, in the past, the document that's attached is the cover sheet of what I would call the executive summary that you're fairly familiar with already. I have updated that, though, to include the capital projects plan and all of what's been included in the capital projects plan. If you go into the drive, there's the building by building breakdown of that, at least what it looks like before we send it to the principals. Because the way the process works is I start with this, I send it to the principals, they make recommendations. I'll visit with Jerome, we'll make some priorities, that'll go to the facilities committee, give that the once over and make any changes if necessary, then it comes here to the board for final approval. That's what comes on the summer projects. So if you go into that Excel document, you'll see some things listed as CPP. Those are capital project plan. Those are the things that we are doing with board approval to do all of those plans. Now, that could be something that the facility committee gets to and says, you know what, we can't do this one right now. Or we don't need to do this one. Let's push this one off till next year. Or let's do this one sooner. This is in year 3, but we want to move it to year 1. And we might get into some situations like that, but as a general rule, that's how this process is built. And you'll see in the front page, that executive summary too, there's some district-wide stuff that we are including in here that we haven't included in the past. But that all comes to essentially, we bring in revenue of around $727,000, and we are proposing expenditures in the area of $830,000. So, that could be more, could be less based on what that final plan is. But that does not include equipment. If you remember, in our capital projects plan, we've included equipment as an area. So that doesn't include that because that's not a building fund expense. So that would have to be built into a general fund expenditure. But again, it gives us the guideline of what is there. So if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer that also. And like I said, the full Excel document by building is in the drive.
Bob, you have a question?
I didn't look in the drive, but just is the project up at the bus barn, is that included in for this coming summer?
It's not included in there, but it will be. We did reach out to some others to see if they'd be interested in giving us quotes, and they were not. So unless there were to be, we've already approved it as part of the transportation agreement, but I'd be moving forward with that unless there were concerns with it. Like I said, we did reach out and spend about another 4 weeks trying to get more interest, but we didn't get it. So.
Okay.
I gave some, I talked about looking in getting a new website created. Campus Suite is who we'll be working with, their functionality, integration. We like the aesthetics, and obviously the website accessibility checks. They, when Pam worked and did demos for, I believe, 5 different companies, they were certainly the best in terms of website accessibility and the checks. ultimately saving her the time and resources so she can do other things for us instead of just working on accessibility checks. There is a cost, of course, that ranges from $12,000 in year one, and it drops down to an annual cost of $8,000. But in my opinion, we recoup that simply by her time and getting an improved product. But if there is any functionality, things that you say, boy, what I've heard from parents is we want to make sure we have X. Please make sure that you talk to Pam or me so we can work on getting that integrated. We want to go live before the next school year. So we're excited about that. And I've given some samples of Campus Suite websites so you can see what some of them look like aesthetically, and you can play around with some of those functions too.
Heidi?
I guess just one of the things that, and I haven't looked at what sort of calendar it may have, but it would be really nice to be able to get, this is something that's been talked about since I've been on the board for 8 or 9 years here, but having what's happening in every single school and be able to filter them out and making sure the stuff gets easy to put on there. So it does, becomes cumbersome, it doesn't get posted. So
That was one of my non-negotiables in terms of one of the things that we were looking for is improved calendar integration. We felt pretty confident that either through Google Calendars or RSS feeds, all of that would feed right into the calendar and you could sort. So that's one of the things that I think takes a little more work to load, but at the end of the day, it's a better product. I think people will be happy with it. We're hopeful.
Okay. Yep, one more, Heidi?
will it integrate also with our app? That's my other question.
Well, not a direct integration. We would have the opportunity to use their app, and they would have an app for us, but at this time, I wouldn't see us taking that on because we've had, we have over 3,000 downloads now. I don't think changing midstream on our app would be a good idea, but if there's other uses we could find for that, we certainly would try to. But as we've talked before, I'm on the ESSA Planning Committee. I didn't include an executive overview for that. I'll just talk about it a little bit so you know. The vision that we created when we were working on the ESSA plan, I think is important to understand the context. So the vision is all students will graduate choice ready, and I like that word choice ready, with the knowledge, skills, and disposition to be successful in whatever they choose to do, whether they pursue post-secondary, enroll in a technical college, enter the workforce, or join the military. So that's kind of the vision of what we set forth to do. Trying to make sure that there's, I like to say, challenging pathways for all kids, depending on where they choose to pursue their lives post-secondary. So we want to make sure that we're preparing them in any of those. So we have 5 areas that we work on: support great leaders and teachers, engage in continuous improvement, ensure equity, promote local educational opportunities, and invest in early childhood education. Those are the 5 primary priority areas. From that, 3 subcommittees exist. My committee is teacher leader effectiveness. Standards, assessments, accountability, and reporting is one, and then continuous improvement is a third. In looking at accountability and support systems, there's really a focus on support, priorities, or prioritizing, and continuous improvement. We want to make sure that there's support for schools, not just blame and shame, not just list their names in the paper and say this was a failing school by some arbitrary cut score standard. We want to make sure that that represents growth and that it is support-based. So not just saying these are the schools that didn't reach a cut score. These are the schools that are going to get additional support to improve. So it's less about blame and shame, more about support. And so how are they allocating resources, support services, and of course increasing oversight as necessary, elevate accountability if you need extra support, but the focus is on support. One of the real positives that I think comes from this area is a dashboard for all schools, that provides transparency. As a parent, you want to be able to look to see what your school is doing. And so you can see at an easy to view dashboard how are these indicators working, and how is my school? Give me the quick snapshot. And if I can drill down, that's great, but I really want to see in a general overview how my school is doing. And so that's part of our ESSA plan also, is providing that dashboard. Another, I think, really important thing is that composite growth model, but it's tied to advanced ed. We know advanced ed is our school, our continuous improvement, our school improvement standard. And so tying advanced ed with the accountability makes sense. You're tying two things that we're working together on. Supporting excellent educators, that really relates a lot to my committee. And the focus, my biggest concern, to be honest, and I voiced this on a number of occasions, is getting back to that blame and shame philosophy. And I was very concerned about losing the growth environment that we've created with teachers, with our teacher evaluation and teacher support. We can have open, honest conversations, and it's a growth model. And as soon as you start to infuse accountability into that document, I worry about what becomes of that document. And I think it's critically important to have a positive culture that revolves around growth. You can't have growth when that's connected to an accountability measure. And so what I think is really pretty creative, what the group did, is change that focus from ineffective teacher to ineffective teaching strategy. And so targeting ineffective teaching strategies instead of targeting an ineffective teacher. I think that is a much more effective way to support and improve. Supporting all students, equitable access, equitable academic opportunities. So this can include things like preschool, advanced coursework in science and STEAM, physical education, promoting healthy lifestyles, career and tech ed, 21st century skills, competency-based learning, project-based learning, personal learning opportunities, things like that. And then the last page on there, or the second to last page, talking about redefining ready. And I gave this to you in the past. That's the pathways to get to academic ready, career ready, military ready, and they're still working on life ready. But if you're academic ready, if you have, as an example, if you look at this document, if you're academic ready, you have a GPA of at least 2.8, a GED or a diploma, and you meet two or more of the criteria, 98% attendance, advanced ed or advanced placement exam score of 3+, advanced placement course grade of ABC, dual credit college English and math, A, B, or C, college development. And it just goes on a list. And that's part of that accountability of ensuring that our students are fitting in these categories. And again, it's that focus of we aren't just talking about one kid. We aren't just talking about a 4-year university kid, because not all of our kids are 4-year university kids, and I think we've gone too long in just focusing on one type of kid. And we have to do a better job of making sure that there's other opportunities to give kids choices and allow them to be choice ready to have that, like I said, that challenging pathway to being, I'm going to go to the 4-year university, I'm going to go to career, I'm going to go into military, or I'm going to transition right into life. And we have to make sure that they're challenging, they're rigorous, and they're applicable for our kids as they transition away from us. So that's what we're trying to prepare them for. I think it's the beginnings of a very good plan. I'm very encouraged by it. The ESSA plan has been a meeting a month at least, and then you have your subcommittees. But it's not just teachers. There's PTO people are involved, parents, Department of Public Instruction, consultants. There's 50 people in there, and 4 of them are, 56 people in there, 4 of them are superintendents. Another 4 are principals. And there's a lot of representation of, a couple, probably the same amount of teachers. So there's a lot of representatives, people that aren't just boots on the ground educators. There's a lot of peripheral, and actually the Department of Public Instruction has had quite a bit of very positive feedback from the Department of Education on how we've created the plan. How many stakeholders have had input on the plan. It's been very positively received. So I think it's a very good start. I'd be happy to answer questions if you have some.
Any questions, Rob? Diane?
Could you educate me and possibly the public about I understand what ESSA is now, thanks to this excellent report. But how does this play into the national view with Race to the Top? And are all states now doing this? Or we chose ourselves, or how did that work nationally?
ESSA is the replacement to No Child Left Behind. So this is a federal requirement. But what ESSA does is it allows states to determine their accountability measures instead of the feds deciding accountability measures for us. So essentially, we get to look through as a state and say, this is what's important for North Dakota students. So we get to develop those things within guidelines, of course. But we get to make the decisions in terms of what's counted, what's not counted, how do we get to that point. And so from that standpoint, it's certainly a change from No Child Left Behind, but it's an improvement.
How about what they used to call Race to the Top? Wasn't that?
Well, Race to the Top was an opportunity to take on some federal dollars to do certain things. North Dakota did not choose to be a Race to the Top state. I was involved in that. I think Mr. Tosa was also involved in that decision to not pursue Race to the Top because of the strings attached.
Any other questions for Rob? None? Okay. Moving on to, we have nothing under board education. Any old business? Hearing none, we'll move into new business. We have nothing under activities. Building and grounds, the Citizens Advisory Committee update. Do we have that, Robert?
I can take that again.
Okay.
We have, our plan for now is the Citizens Advisory Committee is waiting until the DLR group has had a chance to meet with all of the buildings. Right now, they have just started meeting with some of the elementaries. We'll move on to the middle school, the high school, and make sure to get the facility feedback in terms of what do I need from a facility, from the staff. What do we need this facility to be? What does it provide us now? What are we missing? What do we think we're going to need in the 21st century to educate kids? How do facilities play a role in that, et cetera? And once we have that feedback, then we'll meet back again in early April for more discussion. And really, I think one of the things that we've come with in the Citizens Advisory is we want to make sure to take our time and make the right plan and not chase a deadline. And I know that our plan has been we want to have a spring or a June vote referendum. And you know, I'll be honest, I think as we've had these discussions and as we develop consensus on what we need, I think we just need to be understanding that, you know, really the plan is going to drive the vote, not the other way around. I think chasing a date in terms of when we want to have a referendum is not going to be the right choice. And if this takes a little bit more time, a few more months, that's okay. Let's make the right plan for Jamestown and make it a plan that we can, that meets our educational needs, meets our facility needs, and can be supported by the community. And I think when we can answer all those questions, if we say yes, it meets the needs, and it's supported, it meets our facility needs, meets our educational needs, it's supported, and we feel it's supported by the community, that's when we bring it forward. And I would suggest that maybe a soft goal for that is September. But recognizing that this is really a broader discussion than just when can we have the vote. And I think we'll know when we get closer to that. But the group's been working really well. I've been very impressed. We added some more folks at our last meeting and you know, getting a little more stakeholder input, which I think we need. And we're still following along the same timeline that we've set in place. I just don't want to limit us in terms of, you know, making a decision too soon. More before we're ready and before the community's ready to vote. I don't know, Steve, if you had any other things to share.
I have a question for you, Rob. As far as, is there legislation out there now limiting to when a person can have a referendum from prior, when we've had one? Is that passed, and does that affect us coming up?
I think the answer to that is I don't believe there's an emergency clause associated with that. So it would not impact us if we were in the next calendar year choosing, say, September. I don't think that that would impact us, and I would have to double check to make sure that doesn't have an emergency clause, but I don't believe it does.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yep, it does.
And I guess at the end of the day, if it did, it would just change potentially when we did it. But this would be an off year, and I think if I remember right, that bill says you can only do it twice in odd numbered years. And if it's in an even number year, you'd have to do it in a corresponding election. So it could potentially limit us, but I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Okay. Any other questions on that, or none? Moving on to number 3, finance, we have nothing. Number 4, personnel, approval of Superintendent Lex evaluation. There's 4 sections to the evaluation. Hope everybody went through it already, and thanks to Amy and the tabulation of everything, we got that done this last week. And we need to vote on every section separately. There's 4 sections, and then we have an overall approval. So moving to section 1, if I can get approval for a satisfactory rating on goals and vision setting, the number was 3.86. That's 1 through 4. So, motion by Heidi, seconded by Diane. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call, Sally?
Jennifer Schmitz?
Yes.
Diane Hansen?
Yes.
Steve Veldkamp? Greg Allen? Brenda Remick? Roger Hout?
Yes.
Robert Toso?
Yes.
Heidi Larson?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Moving to section 2, is there a motion for satisfactory approval for board relations? Number was 3.75. Motion by Brenda, seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Sally?
Jennifer Schmitz?
Yes.
Diane Hansen?
Yes.
Steve Veldkamp? Greg Allen? Heidi Larson? Brenda Remick? Roger Hout?
Yes.
Robert Toso?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Moving to section 3, is there a motion for a satisfactory rating, human resource and management, number 3.82? Motion by Brenda, seconded by Bob. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Sally?
Steve Veldkamp? Greg Allen? Heidi Larson? Roger Hout?
Yes.
Jennifer Schmidt?
Yes.
Robert Toso?
Yes.
Diane Hansen?
Yes.
And Brenda Remick. Motion passes 8-0.
Moving to section 4, is there a motion to approve a satisfactory rating in curriculum and student support services, number of 3.81? Motion by Jennifer, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Diane Hansen?
Yes.
Steve Veldkamp? Robert Toso?
Yes.
Brenda Remick? Jennifer Schmidt?
Yes.
Roger Hout?
Yes.
Heidi Larson? And Greg Allen.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Is there a motion for an overall satisfactory rating for Mr. Leck? Motion by Greg, seconded by Brenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Heidi Larson?
Yes.
Roger Hout?
Yes.
Robert Toso?
Yes.
Diane Hansen?
Yes.
Greg Allen? Jennifer Schmidt?
Yes.
Brenda Remick? Steve Veldkamp? Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Rob, and thanks for all that you do for us, so. Oh. 5 section?
Yeah, there's 6.
There's 6 sections, excuse me. Thanks, Amy. Go section 5, motion for a satisfactory rating of community relations 3.81. Motion by Jennifer, seconded by Bob. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Sally?
Roger Hout?
Yes.
Robert Toso?
Yes.
Diane Hansen?
Yes.
Greg Allen? Heidi Larson? Jennifer Schmidt? Brenda Remick? And Steve Velkamp. Motion passes 8-0.
Moving to Section 6, motion for satisfactory approval of Operations and Resource Management, number 3.81. Motion by Greg, seconded by Bob. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Sally?
Robert Toso? Diane Hansen?
Yes.
Greg Allen? Heidi Larson? Roger Hout?
Yes.
Steve Velkamp? And Brenda Remick? And Jennifer Schmidt. Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy, for bringing that to our attention. Moving to letter B, motion to approve Robert Leck's contract for the 2017-18 school year, or fiscal year, excuse me. Motion by Jennifer, seconded by Heidi.
I second it with, then, in the discussion, there's a date of signing we may want to adjust.
Okay, there's second. Any discussion? Heidi?
It says April 1st, 2016. He may have trouble making that date, so we could
Okay.
probably change it to 2017 so he can actually get it in on time.
Okay. That's good. And Bob, you had,
Just, I want to point out that, at Mr.
oh, your mic's not on, sorry.
I'm sorry.
There we go.
I want to point out that at Mr. Leck's request, the contract does not include a raise for the 17-18 school year, that it's basically the same contract as the current school year. And again, that is at his request.
With things in Bismarck going on, we figure it's just better to hold steady, so we appreciate that too. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Sally?
Greg Allen? Heidi Larson? Jennifer Schmidt? Roger Hout?
Yes.
Brenda Remick? Robert Toso? Steve Velkamp? Diane Hansen?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, moving into number 5, Rob?
Just a comment, thank you for the opportunity to continue to work in Jamestown. We appreciate it, and I think it's an exciting place to be, and it's a great challenge. I continue to enjoy it every day, so thank you.
Yep. Policy and procedures, is there a motion to rescind of concussion management policy, FCAF? Motion by Bob, seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to letter B, is there a motion to approve the first reading of the concussion management policy, FCAF? Rob?
I move to approve FCAF and all corresponding sections.
C, D, and E, correct? Yep.
Correct.
Okay. Second? Second by Greg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. There a motion to approve our second readings, F through K. Motion by Greg, seconded by Diane.
Just for the record, you want to read which of those
Yeah.
policies?
For the record, I'll read them. F is approve of the second reading of the title programs dispute resolution procedure, GABDB policy. It's approval of the second reading of the patron complaint, KACA policy. It's approval of the second reading of the complaints about personnel, KACB policy. It's approval of the second reading of the personnel complaint form, KACB E1. And then it's the approval of the second reading of the investigation confidentiality agreement, KACB E2. And then the last one is the approval of the second reading of the personnel complaints, KACB E3. Rob, you know?
Okay, just vote first, then I have.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we have a comment from Rob on letters L and M.
One of the things that came up as you reviewed was I'm going to recommend that we hold off on DBBA just to get some feedback, get some greater clarity on how the passage of Measure 5 may impact this policy. So we don't want to pass a policy, turn around and pass a new policy or revise that policy. So there may be some questions about some verbiage in that. So I want to reach out to School Boards Association and get that clear before we adopt. And I think it was wise to bring that up as a potential area to review. The other was in DEAA. The recommendation that I have is where it mentions an employee assistance program, that you would want to add as available to that language. So I guess my recommendation is that you say that, just you don't want to hamstring. This was a choice that was made by the district to move in to have an employee assistance program. If you chose later on to revoke that, so you wouldn't have to change the policy. It wouldn't say, it doesn't mean that we don't support having an EAP. It simply doesn't, you don't want it to hamstring a future board in that area. So thank you for bringing up both of those points. And those are my recommendations in terms of this.
So is there approval for the first reading of the drug and alcohol-free workplace policy with the addition of this, under the assistant program, as available wording?
Aren't you on L? Would you be rescinding? In
No,
other words,
That's what we just
We're
talked.
holding those until we find some more information.
on- No,
No.
you're just doing nothing. And you'd be on N right now.
Yeah,
wait, you're on L to rescind them, so you don't want to do L and then, and if
Right.
you have changes in all of them, you really don't want to do anything with L through R.
No, you don't want to do anything with L or M. And then you want to do,
or R.
or R.
Yeah, R where we haven't got to yet, so.
You don't want to rescind O. But you do want to do DE. You want to do N, P, Q.
You'd have two policies then.
No, you don't.
So
I
N,
don't believe that you would.
What?
I don't believe that you would.
how would we have two, Sally, here?
Rescind, okay, maybe I'm not understanding something. If you rescind the drug and alcohol testing for employees policy and rescind the drug and alcohol staff standards of conduct policy,
You aren't
We
rescinding
aren't
either
rescinding
one
them.
of those.
We just put those on hold, those two,
okay.
L and M.
And then what are you doing with the drug and alcohol and the chemical use? So you're moving forward with those?
Correct.
N doesn't change anything to L and M. It's two,
Mike.
it's like three different topics. But our old
Policies.
policies were,
Amy and I sat down and went through this, so that's why we're going, yeah.
ours were intertwined. So
Right.
So if we rescind one, we're still, because we had intertwining of.
So is the
like, policies
concern if,
prior.
is your concern that if we were to approve the first reading of N, which is drug and alcohol-free workplace, our current policy,
You would have two, Mike, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but you and I reviewed these. I feel like you would have portions
Okay.
of one, one not rescinded and one your first reading, so you'd have a combination of two policies. Yep,
So we're better off just to hold off on all of them.
exactly.
Rob?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review all of these again, get the clarity we need to get on DBBA, and then we'll bring them all back together. If there are any gaps that we would be creating or overlaps, we want to be careful. So just so we have a chance to review that, let's just wait.
So we're holding on all of them then? Okay. Okay. Moving to number 6, tuition. Motion to approve the tuition agreement for a ninth grade student to attend Beach Public School for the 2017-18 school year. Motion by Brenda, seconded by Bob. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Items for future agenda. If you do have something that comes up that you want on there, just let myself or Rob know, and we'll make sure that we get that on there. We have meetings to be scheduled. We have the district School Improvement Committee, the MTSS meeting, coming up on Tuesday, March 7th at 3:30 in the Thompson Room in the middle school. We have the Health Committee meeting on Monday, March 13th, 2017 at 3:30 in the district office conference room. We have the Facilities Committee meeting coming up on Monday, March 13th at 5 p.m. in the district conference room. We have our next regular school board meeting on Monday, March 20th at 5:15 here in the Thompson Room in the middle school. Moving to Roman numeral 6, we have the monthly superintendent evaluation section 2 and 3 to do.
Will the agenda be adjusted to hyperlink those, or, because the number 6 and 7, neither of them are hyperlinked in the agenda right now.
Are they on the regular?
For the record, you could use the links from previous agendas, just do the correct sections. But both of those, the links don't change from month to month. It's just the sections that'll change that you do differently. But yeah, I apologize. I was gone for a week, and
Yep.
I didn't get those in there.
Just
We were
remember to
happy for you to be gone. It's fine. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something. So thank you for the clarification.
Heidi, you have something?
And while you were gone, you were recognized as well? Did you want to speak to that?
Nope. He got back from his,
Amy and I could say something.
yeah. He just got back from his trip from New Orleans for the National Superintendent's Convention or banquet they have down there for everybody, so. Sally?
Rob is too humble, but he was awarded down there and given a plaque, a very nice plaque that's in his office that says Superintendent of the Year, also a very nice medal, and so I think they treated him well and well-deserved.
Very good, so. Another reminder to right-click on your adjournment on the previous meeting. Thanks, Jennifer. And assess our meeting. No further business before the board. The meeting's adjourned.
Yeah, well, there was more than that.
I thought we could do that one and not in that.